just like that, we're all set up again.
Okay, good.
Hey, Stanley.
Hello again, everybody. Are we recording? Yes?
Oh, yeah, we're recording. Don't say anything untoward.
I will not.
So, what are we talking about today?
Well, it's your choice. What do you say?
I chose the subject of change. I thought
Okay,
it'd be an interesting thing to talk about because it's on my mind lately.
okay.
Just I'm turning 30. I'm starting a new decade soon, and it's making me reflect on a lot about like how I've changed over 3 decades. The way that I saw myself when I was younger, the way that I see myself now, and obviously I've been with myself every day for all of those 30 years, so I don't often notice the changes until I see somebody again that I haven't seen in a long time, and then the changes are so apparent to them, because they see me at 18 and then they don't see me until I'm 30, and then they see me again, they're like, wow, you're so different, and I don't notice it because I see myself every day.
What is the main thing that they have noticed?
The main thing is probably my demeanor has calmed. I think I used to be a lot more, not like, I think it's just a little bit more aggressive of a presence and an energy. But I think my priorities have changed a lot, and the way that I view what I'm doing and why I'm doing it has changed a lot. I think in large part it's probably because of Sarah, or because I have committed myself to a partner. So now all of a sudden my responsibilities aren't just for me, they're for her as well. And I imagine that happens when people have kids as well,
But those are changes that are really not visible to an outsider.
Well, I think it's the demeanor that is visible. I mean, the physical changes, obviously, I looked at a picture. My friend Grant sent me a picture, a side-by-side of him when he was 21 and him now at 31, and how different he looks. And it was like almost sad to look at. And so I did the same thing with myself and did like a picture of me when I was 21 and a picture of me, or 20 and a picture of me now. And it's just wild to look at how much of a child you were when you were 21, and you think that you're like this adult when you're 21, and then you look back at a picture 10 years later and you're like, wow, I really was just a little kid. It's strange to think about. How's it been for you, like looking at pictures of you from a child till now?
Very much so.
All the stages.
No, I understand just what you're saying. I look back at high school pictures, yearbook picture, early living in New York, even before that, in the time in the Army, and year after year after year since then. Sure, of course.
Yeah. What's the biggest change that you notice?
I look infinitely older. Disappointingly older. That's true, because I always looked younger than I was, and I always got away with that.
Well, you still look younger than you are.
When I got to 60, and you could get half fare bus rides, I didn't admit to that.
Really? No, nobody believed you, or you just didn't even want to say?
Well, I just lied.
You're like, if I pass for 40, I'll just say I'm 40.
Maybe not 40, but he's maybe 50. So
yeah.
And I got away with that for a long, long time. I don't get away with that so much anymore.
My dad.
But that's okay.
My dad does that with. He loves getting carded. Like when you're 65, you get on certain days you get like discounts at the grocery store. You get cheaper flights, cheaper, all these things, senior discounts. And every time he tries to get one, because he's 66 now, but every time he tries to get one, they always ask for his card because they don't believe he's 65, and he loves it. He loves being carded. It's so funny.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, tell me more about the change in you.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it's like I spent so much of my younger, I say younger years to you. I'm still in my younger years, I'm sure, but for me, my younger years comparatively to 30, I spent so much of that time prioritizing like knowledge over happiness, which to an extent I still do in some way. But I think that there was a point, I don't know how many years ago, but there was a point where I started to flip for me, where suddenly it became less important to me to like know the truth about everything I could, and just to invest in peace of mind. And the benefits of that have been like a wild change for me. Just to be able to accept that uh, what makes a life significant, or what makes your actions noble, don't necessarily have to do with like bringing about some drastic change to society or the world, or being remembered in some crazy way, any kind of legacy in particular. It's just about like being perpetually good to the people that are in your life. And
I it's an interesting subject because I think if one sets out to make huge changes, you may be inviting failure.
hmm,
If you set out to make small changes, you may have better luck and greater success.
hmm,
I think that's true in writing for new writers to immediately say, "Well, I'm going to write a 500-page novel." You may surely fall
yeah,
and fall on your face. If you start out to write a 5-page short story, which can be just as challenging and maybe more productive,
hmm,
and maybe that would be a way to begin to change and to grow in a reasonable kind of way. And I
yeah,
think in general in the world this is true, that changes, small changes, can be really so
lasting impacts.
significant. So yeah,
Yeah,
so much so.
I see that with marathon training. In the same sense that
I'll bet.
you're saying about the 500-page novel. I mean, setting out to run a marathon, having never run a mile, is a you'll likely not succeed. But the incremental change over time, where you have this large goal, be it to write a 500-page novel or to run 26 miles, and you set it out in the distance, and you say, all right, what do I need to do to be able to do that when the time comes? It's, well, I need to run 2 miles today, and then tomorrow I need to run 2 miles again, and then on Friday I need to run 5 miles, and then the next week I need to do it again and do it again, and then maybe the 3 weeks from now I'll run 8 miles on one day, and then three the next, and over and over and over. The consistency of the discipline that you teach yourself when you're trying to accomplish some large, lofty goal, is what is really the reward. Running the marathon, I'm sure, will feel rewarding, but I think what ultimately I'm excited about is the reward of training myself to be disciplined enough to succeed at something in the future. You know?
You looking forward to the marathon?
No.
Oh,
No, I'm not looking forward to it. I mean, I'm excited in general, but it's really hard. It's
oh, I
every
would think
time
so.
I go out, I'm like, I don't want to run right now, but then I do, because I have to, and because I have Sarah to hold me accountable to it as well. So, like, if she goes out and runs and I choose not to, I feel terribly. I feel like a loser. So every time, and she's way more disciplined than I am. She can make herself do things that she doesn't want to do easily. I have a really hard time with it. There's a great quote by Mike Tyson about discipline, where he says discipline is doing something you hate but doing it like you love it.
Hmm.
And I think that that's so true. You have to like do it with the same passion and vigor, as as you would if it was something that you loved to do, and you just do it anyway.
They say that about some of these challenges in the Olympics, especially the gymnasts.
Mm.
These exercises, or I don't even know what you call them, are so fantastic. And they say, well, we try and make it look easy, though it really isn't easy at all.
Oh, yeah. I mean, watching some of the what's it called, the rings.
The rings.
Oh my God, the strength in their shoulders and their back just to be able to hold themselves out like that on rings.
Not only that, but they'll be like this, and they will be completely horizontal in the middle of the air.
Insane.
And you think, how in the world do they do
And they're not
that?
shaking. They're completely still. They're so stable and sturdy.
They're supposed to be still, yes.
Yeah, they're supposed to be still. Yeah, I mean, watching people... I mean, the Olympics is such a cool example of, like, what a human being is capable of, It's like just this...
It really is.
Demonstration of if you focus your whole life on doing one thing well.
I thought it was very interesting that in the USA, the male gymnastic team, there's one fellow, his name is Stephen something, and in a way he stands out because he wears glasses. Mostly they don't. When he performs, he takes off the glasses. He is there to do one thing, and it's the pommel horse. This awful thing where they legs go up and around. And that's all he does. He doesn't do any of the other tricks.
Wow.
And it's interesting because they welcome him. He's part of the team, but that's all he does. And lately, when they were getting on to the finals, everybody else on the team had already done their stuff, and he was coming last. And they were counting on him, because he was the end of the tour. And they were hoping that they would get a bronze medal, which ultimately they did.
Oh, good.
So he performed, and he came through, and he was a real hero.
Wow.
But it was interesting to me that they would allow him to be part of the team when he's only doing one exercise.
Yeah, he must be that good.
He is.
Yeah.
Sure he is, yeah.
That's wild. I can't imagine the pressure that these kids must be under. The amount of eyes. I mean, the whole world is watching. You have this one moment to prove that all of the training that you've been doing.
And not only what you're doing, but how you end it, because they keep saying the landing is very important. Presumably, the landing should be solid. You don't, and that. You just land. And if need be, you rise up slowly, but you don't jump.
Yeah.
So the landing is very important. I think, good grief, after you've finished doing all of this impossible stuff already.
Yeah, just to stand up straight.
Then you have to figure out how to just land the right way.
Yeah, it blows my mind. If you were to be an Olympic athlete,
sorry. What would I be?
Yeah, what sport would you do?
Well, the only sport I ever even attempted was tennis, and I do like playing tennis, but of course I haven't done it in a while. And there has been tennis at the Olympics, doubles, Nadal and this very young Spanish guy. His name escapes me right now. He's very good. Yeah. I want to ask you something else apropos of the subject of change.
Yeah.
Do you think, now you have experienced a good amount of change in yourself. Others have noted it. Do you think one should get to a point where change is enough. I don't want to change anymore.
At this,
And can you give illustrations about that?
yeah, at this juncture in my life, I would say no. I think that change is the lifeblood of the world, and I think that the whole point of being alive is to change and grow and move and learn and experience new things that are gonna. I mean, even I don't think that this is actually scientifically true, but I remember people believed it when I was younger. I think it's representative of the same thing, but I don't think it's accurate. That like every cell in your body, every 7 years, every cell in your body has died off and new ones have taken its place, and so you're like uh like biologically you're like a different creature than you were 7 years prior. And I don't know if 7 years is the right timeline, but something like that. And I think that's a good metaphor for the acceptance that you're never the same person that you were in the past. And if you hold on to ideas or like belief systems or philosophies about what you are, who you are to yourself, to other people, and what the world is, if you hold on to them, you're gonna be, holding on to a buoy in a storm. Like, I think you just have to let the waves take you, and accept that like the ideas that you have about who you are, if you let them stagnate, you'll stagnate too. I think change is like the greatest fun.
So the way you talked about that, if I'm not mistaken, you sort of equate change to growth.
In many ways, I would say,
Yeah.
if someone is the same person that they were 15 years ago, I would question their self-awareness, because there's no way you could be 15 years of experiences that you haven't had before. If you remain unchanged by that, it seems to me like you weren't listening.
Among the older people that you know, maybe in your family or maybe not, have you noticed people who don't change?
Oh yeah, for sure. Or at least not necessarily that they don't change, but the changes aren't noticeable to me. My mom's mom and my dad's mom are both effectively the same to me now that they were when I was little. I don't. There's no like major differences in the way that they see the world and operate that I've noticed. Not that I'm the person who should notice. I don't know why they would think it appropriate or necessary to tell
Well,
me.
why not?
But yeah, I don't know. My dad's mom can't. She's sick, or she has in a disease that prevents her from drinking now, and she loves her wine. So, but she can't have wine anymore because it's bad for her stomach. But and that has like changed her routine a lot. She has to eat very bland food now because to help with it, and so her life has gotten a lot slower, as I know you can, I'm sure, imagine as well, or not imagine, her life predominantly consists of like just kind of she watches her golf, she watches her things, she calls her kids, she goes out and does the odd thing, but she can't do the things that she loved anymore. Like, she can't golf much anymore. She used to have a motorcycle. She can't do that. She can't do a lot of the stuff she did when she was younger. So she's changed in terms of like her routine, but I think that her views on the world have been generally the same. I'd have to ask her, I guess. I'm going to see her in 2 weeks, so maybe I'll ask her that. I don't know. And my mom's mom has remained fairly unshaken by time.
Well, she's also very devout, right?
Very devout, which I think it acts as a pillar in a large way. But I don't know. Like, I see my mom has changed a lot over the last 10 years. My dad has changed.
Yeah, but your sister has caused a lot of that.
Yeah. The circumstances that they're dealing with has forced a lot of change
course.
in the way that they deal with things, and I think I think again, there's growth in it. I don't know if it's all growth, but there's definitely growth in it. My dad's capacity to create joy out of thin air has definitely gotten stronger. You know,
Really?
yeah. Well, when you're in a dire circumstance and there's so much sadness, I think that it's a skill that is worth practicing. Is to create fun and reasons to smile.
No question, if you can, sure.
Yeah, and he's gotten really good at that, which I don't know.
Really, good for him.
Yeah, yeah. And my mom's always been good at that. But yeah, noticing that change has been I think a lot of change too is just like maturity. Like you view it as change, but it's really just like you start to see you have so much more input now over time that you're seeing a bigger picture than you had before. And it's not that you changed, but that your vision has gotten broader, and so now there's more variables that influence your decisions than there probably had been when you were in high school, and the only things that mattered to you were like getting to sit at the cool kids table and scoring a goal in the lacrosse team or whatever, getting an A on your test. How about you? Do you view that, and people who are your age, friends of yours now, do you find anyone is still like actively changing or growing?
Not much.
No.
Not much. No, it's very easy not to.
Yeah.
Get in a rut, and there you are.
Yeah.
And people develop infirmities, diseases.
Hmm.
I don't see people my age or even nearly my age still experiencing much growth.
Hmm.
I might try and do a little bit, but not that much.
Yeah.
If you're physically limited, that plays into it too.
Yeah. I think too that like a lot of people always say, if you stop pursuing a passion, a lot of people say like the second you stop working is the moment you start dying. But like I don't know if it's necessarily working. I think if you stop pursuing creative pursuits and passions that you genuinely care about and bring you peace, when you stop doing those things, I think that's when you stop changing.
One change that I've noticed in myself, I enjoy reading a great deal more than I used to. I was not a good reader when I was young.
Huh.
I read in school what was assigned, and I did a good job with that, but I didn't seek it. And I can remember summers, in the old days when you were suffering from the heat in Texas, and air conditioning was a luxury, which most people didn't have. And it didn't occur to me to pick up a book and read. What's the matter? And I got a bike at some point, and occasionally would bike over to a library. I remember that library was a beautiful building, and it was cool too. I didn't go there that much.
Yeah, I remember as a kid.
And I really regret it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, sure.
I suppose I feel similarly. Gianni is an avid reader. He reads, I don't know, 10 books a month minimum. I
Really?
mean, yeah, he reads so much and so quickly.
Good for him.
Yeah, but I admire that in him because it's given him so much to draw from as an actor, as a writer, as a creative, just as a person in general. Like he has so much information in his mind that he can use to inform his decisions. And
You're quite right.
I remember when I was a kid, like I hated reading. And it's not that I hated reading, like I could immerse myself in a story if I had to, but I hated the fact that if I was reading, it meant I wasn't playing outside. and
Oh.
it felt like punishment. I felt like I was in timeout every summer when we'd have to do summer book reports, and you'd have to read 3 books over the summer before school, and I'd push it off all until the last 2 weeks, and then be like, oh, I have to read these 3 books in 2 weeks and do book reports on them. But it was because it's summer. It's beautiful outside. There's water and there's woods, and I want to run around. I want to be outside. And anytime you tell me I have to read, that means I have to sit inside and like look at pages in the dark, and I could be out in the sun. Like, so I think that my relationship to reading when I was young, also ADHD, it felt a lot like punishment. I like it a lot more now than I did. Still not as much as I should. I listen to podcasts and audiobooks a lot more than I pick up a book and actually read it.
Well, that's a form of reading.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and on the topic of change, like I think that there's certain changes that are very welcome and certain changes that are certainly not welcome.
Sure.
And I find myself stagnating a lot in things that like I would love to change it, but it would require so much effort to change that I don't want to put in that effort. And one of them is being a more avid reader. There's too many other things that I love to do that I can't make the choice to say, I'm not going to do those things. I'm going to do this now. But yeah, I don't know. I think that we're all changing, and it's good. I would never want to be the me I was 5 years ago again. I was that me, and it was cool. But now I'm this me, and I don't want to go back. I'd rather keep going. I'm sure I'll be completely different as a human being when I'm 40 as well. And I won't want to be 30 again, at least in here. Maybe physically I would, but in the head I don't think I'd want to be 30.
Then you'll have to check in again and let me know.
Yeah. Do you think that this version of you, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, that this 91-year-old version of you is the best version?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think so.
That's cool.
I think so. I think I'm more charitable, better grounded, manage being alone pretty well.
Mm.
Yeah. And I certainly experienced gratitude profoundly.
Wow. Stanley, we're over time. That went really fast.
Good. Okay.
That was a good way to end it, though.
That gives you stuff to leave out.
Yeah. All right, Stanley, I'll see you on the next one.
Okay.
See you, everybody.
Bye, everyone.